Eurasia is the largest continent of our planet. These boundless steppes and mighty mountains became the cradle of the Turkic world thousands of years ago. I am Samat Tolukbay, a journalist and researcher. I follow in the footsteps of our ancestors, in the footsteps of the Turkic tribes and people who engendered a great nomadic civilization, who left our steppes and lived in different parts of the world. The School of Nomads, studying the past, creating the present, to build the future. The country of boundless mountains, crystal rivers, and clear lakes is Kyrgyzstan. It is not only the republic next to Kazakhstan, there is so much in common with the people of this country. This is confirmed by the saying that the Kazakh and Kyrgyz were born together. And our relationship is based on, of course, Turkic origins, a common religion, similar language and ethics, as well as a similarity of traditions. My goal is to visit the most remote villages of Kyrgyzstan and get to know people who were able to preserve the identity of the ancient people. But any journey begins, of course, from the capital. This is Bishkek, the largest city of the country. It is located in the north of Kyrgyzstan, near the foothills of the Tian Shan. At various times it was called Bishkek, Frunze. The city owes its geographical position to the Great Silk Road. Walking through the capital, I realized this is not a city of skyscrapers, but Bishkek is beautiful, with its wide streets, old buildings, and greenery. I was surprised by a number of ancient sculptures in the city center. This is a balbal stones. I thought that these are copies of modern masters, but it turned out that these are artifacts collected from different parts of Kyrgyzstan. The main square of Bishkek is decorated with a giant monument dedicated to the great Batyr Manas. He is the hero of a famous epic, and therefore during my journey, I will certainly have to learn about him as much as possible. In the meantime, I decided to eat ice cream and walk through Bishkek squares. There is a great atmosphere. Grandmothers are walking with their grandchildren, mothers with strollers, couples in love. I noticed Bishkek citizens are very close to art. For example, walking in the park, you can see the open-air exhibition of artists. Their works are one more interesting than the other. Everywhere one can notice the national flavor and spirit of the people. What I told you is that Bishkek is not just the capital, but the cultural capital of the country. A person can come out from the gallery and find himself in an unusual bookstore. Unusual because the store owners stage a small ethnographic museum. These are things, household items, jewelry. They all belong to different times, to the inhabitants of the glorious Bishkek.
Осындай жәдігерлердің ішінде ең бір ерекше көзге түскені
Among all the exhibits, my attention was drawn to this traditional carpet dating back to the past century. Women of nomadic people from ancient times made such carpets and decorated the walls of the yurt with them. But here I was interested in drawings. Look, on one canvas, almost the entire history of the Kyrgyz people is depicted. For example, the mother deer. The Kyrgyz believe that their kind descended from her. The following are scenes from nomadic life, various cattle, a yurt. Above, look at the mountains of Alai, at the foot of which the Kyrgyz people live.
Керемет сурет мына Қытайдан осы Қырғызстанға дейін созылып жатқан біздің Алатауларымыз. Тау текелері.
After, I think this is a scene from the heroic epic Manas.
Батырлары, яғни ең бірінші, ең
I've already said that this plays an important role in Kyrgyz culture. Here scenes from the battles are depicted, which are described in the epic. The following short story tells about a more modern period. More precisely, it is devoted to the events of the last century, the period of Soviet rule. I am honestly surprised by this canvas. That is, the craftswoman meticulously embroidered the entire history of her people, making emphasis on the details that identify the Kyrgyz people as an ancient nation.
Әр тарихи кезеңнен өзінше бір ой деуге болады.
By the way, the entrance to this improvised mini-museum is absolutely free. I am pleasantly surprised by this very feature of the Kyrgyz people, the ability to preserve their history and culture anywhere. Another confirmation is the restaurant of national cuisine.
Қырғызстанға келгелі бері нәр татпадым, қарным қатты ашып тұр.
I haven't eaten anything since morning. Therefore, I decided to visit this cozy restaurant. Now I'm ready to eat a whole ram. So, let's not wait. This is not a restaurant, but a real open-air museum. The feeling that I was somewhere in the Middle Ages. Maybe it is a bookstore or a restaurant. Everywhere Kyrgyz are trying to keep sources from the past. Just look, on the territory of the institution, a small exposition was organized with household items that the Kyrgyz nomads used in the past. By the way, very similar to ours. Here, for example, canvas cloth. It grinds cereals. Here are chests, saddles. All subjects are very similar to those used by the Kazakh nomads. And this once again confirms that we are fraternal people, having much in common, both in culture and even in everyday life. Because of the rain, we could not walk around the restaurant. I looked into the house where I was supposed to have lunch and met someone who would be very helpful in preparing this program. This is historian Melis Murataliyev, a person who explores the history and culture of his people for many years. I have a lot of questions. Melisaga, I'm very glad to meet you. My name is Samat. I came from Kazakhstan. I'm interested in the culture and history of the Kyrgyz people. We're very much alike. We're neighbors. So I would be very interested to listen to you while drinking tea. Thank you. Welcome. I think they meant it when they said that Kazakhs and Kyrgyz were born together. If a bird has two wings, then I would compare our two people to these wings. Now we're just learning our history. After all, during the Soviet period and the time of Tsarist Russia, our way of life was essentially changed, because there was a huge power, a great state, and inside it, we didn't lose the history, and cultural heritage of our small country.
Kırgız eli özünün ordun saqtap kalıp öte manilүү.
So, if you look deeper into history, the ancestors of modern Kyrgyz people populated the Yenisei Basin in southern Siberia. In the era of the Turkic tribes, they created the Kyrgyz Khaganate, which included the Altai, Irtysh, Tuva, and eastern Sayan mountains. After the pressure of the Mongol Empire, the Altai rulers were forced to move to the slopes of the Tian Shan. The Greeks called the Kyrgyz Herkis, the Arabs and Persians Satsazı, and in Turkic and Uyghur sources, they were called the Kyrgyz. In ancient sources, there are many references to Kyrgyz. The earliest ones are written in Chinese letters. For example, in the 3rd century BC, in the Chinese historical chronicles Xinzu, in 201, it was said that the Kyrgyz lived in the foothills of the Boroy Khor, in the east of the Tian Shan. The earliest records of the Yenisei Kyrgyz were preserved in the historical records of Sima Tian. The state of the Yenisei Kyrgyz was described there. The soil is marshy, winters are snowy, there are more women than men. Men wear earrings in their ears, brave and strong in character. They wear white felted hats. They know the seasons and 12 months. They were engaged in farming, as well as breeding horses. The main food was meat and milk. By the way, let's talk about white caps. And after all, today Kyrgyz men wear this headdress.
Bu kalpak baş giyim deyibіз da. Kırgız için bu jönde baş giyim.
Kalpak, this is not just a hat. It is a symbol of our nation.
Kalpaktın özünün röngün tüzülüşün qarasana.
Look at the kalpak. It is called ak kalpak. That is white hat. The pointed top symbolizes our snow-white peaks. But from the bottom, rolled up fields with a border. This is the Kyrgyz people living at the foot of these mountains.
Arslan sırğa kara gök, Jirdim betin çangdatıp, Gürgün candı tangdatıp, İmi jılkın aydaptır, Armanın işte kalbaptır.
Manas epic is another cultural phenomenon and spiritual heritage of the Kyrgyz people. It is considered to be the longest epic poem in the world. The person performing the epic is called Manasçı. The main character of the epic is Manas. This is a wise and great Batır. There is no direct evidence that it actually existed, but the fact that the epic describes truly historical events is true. This is proven by the scene that covers the territory between Altai, Hangай, Yenisei, and Central Asia. If we talk about the epic Manas, then this is a separate whole world. So we say the world of Manas, the tradition of Manas. For example, we now live in this world. For the deceased, it is another world. And Manas is a separate world. For us, the epic is sacred. Manas is impossible to learn. No one can teach, because it is impossible. It comes as a vision. For example, when they recorded the Manasçı named Sayakbay, they wrote on the paper and counted. There was a number of 553. This is not the number of words. This is the number of lines. Now the epic Manas is listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest epic. There is no other such thing in the world. Our Çokan Walikhanov was one of the first to study Manas. He wrote that there were storytellers among the Kyrgyz who performed manas for several days without stopping. Indeed, this is a phenomenon because none of the manasche does not memorize words. The story, they say, comes from above. Being not just a journalist, but also a researcher, I always try to go where my colleagues have not been. Therefore, from the capital, I decided to go to the very south of the country. The first stop on my way is the ancient city of Uzgen, located in the Osh region. It is famous for the earliest examples of Karakhanid architecture. Uzgen minaret, erected about 10 centuries ago by the Karakhanid architects. Today it has become the main recreation of Uzgen. The appearance of the tower was associated primarily with the spread of Islam in Central Asia. The minaret was used for three purposes. The first was a call to prayer, the second was a security guard, the third was a sign from the city of Bor. The word minaret in Arabic means a building that spreads light. Looking at the tower outside, you notice that it consists of 11 parts, and each part has its own patterns. Here you can see a variety of geometric shapes and images of different plants. They embossed right on the brickwork. It looks very nice. The mausoleums of the Karakhanid rulers leave no less impressions. The Kyrgyz people call them domes. At first glance, the complex seems to be a single building. In fact, all three baths were erected at different times with an interval of 100-150 years. The most ancient of them is the one in the center. It was erected in the late 9th, early 10th century. All these monuments indicate that Uzgen, in those days, was the center of architectural art. Indeed, in the 12th century, this city was the capital of the Eastern Khanate of the Karkhanids. Various inscriptions on stones, fragments of ceramics, which are now stored inside the mausoleums, also speak of antiquity. 2.5 years ago, during excavations, archaeologists discovered clay water pipes 38 meters long. All this shows that culture and civilization was developed in Uzgen many centuries ago. Uzgen was located on the path of the Great Silk Road in the middle of two rivers. It was a center with a rapidly growing trade, and agriculture was also well developed here. The local population used water from Karaderya to grow rice. By the way, a unique type of rice of that time has been preserved by the Uzgen. In my hands, one of the oldest varieties of rice. It is called the Pearl of Uzgen. It was adapted according to the old technology in water drawers. Do you see behind my back levers with huge pestles? Ata, tell us about the unique rice. This variety of rice is called Devzira. It is the oldest and the best. Now, of course, we grow different types, but only ours is a good Devzira. Deacons harvest, clean, dry, demolish it, and so we feed our children. This Aksakal is more than 90 years old. Both his father, grandfather, and even great-grandfather sowed and demolished rice. In short, the craft is passing from generation to generation. And they peel rice here just as great-grandfathers used to do with the help of water jars. Only due to the old method, dried and crushed rice will be real, peasants say. Reddish-brown rice is grown throughout the Fergana Valley, but it is Uzgen that combines ideal climatic conditions, the necessary mineral composition of the soil, and of course, ancient traditions of rice cultivation. This is the most expensive, elite rice, which is considered the most suitable for making a festive pilaf. It is brought to the markets of all of Central Asia. So these huge levers are designed to peel rice. In simple words, pestles mounted on the levers peel the rice shell. Before this, peasants wash and thoroughly dry grain. By the way, you can only peel last year's rice. That means well dried. Rice grain must be solid, so as not to collapse under this pestle, but only to throw off the shell. The whole mechanism is driven by a water mill, and for many centuries, the blades have been constantly spinning, moving heavy pestles, with the help of which the legendary Devzira is born. Yes, many centuries have passed since Dekhan once put his first crop. This rice has an incredible smell, and probably it is very beautiful to the taste.
Мұрныңды жарады. Әттең камера арқылы сіздерге оны жеткізе алмаймын. Өте керемет.
My Kyrgyz colleagues strongly recommended that I eat pilaf only in Uzgen. Now I understand why, and I will definitely try it here. In general, pilaf is an Uzbek dish. Uzgen is famous for it because it is located in the Fergana Valley, on the border with neighboring Uzbekistan. So thanks to the influence and mixing of brotherly cultures, this most delicious dish, Uzgen pilaf, appeared. So, pilaf from Devzira rice, with a long history in front of me, looks very delicious. How I like my job. I pay visit to the fraternal people, get acquainted with the culture, and very importantly, with local cuisine. In general, I'm always full and satisfied. And after a delicious lunch, a dessert is supposed to be served, and I take a ride directly to the bee farm. I will try Alai honey. Alai district, the highest mountain region of the country. These places are famous for the beauty of their nature. Here, agriculture and beekeeping are well developed, and this is not surprising. After all, the honey collected on the high-graded forbs and the height here above sea level reaches half 1,000 meters cannot be unappetizing. This farm is engaged not just in collecting honey, but in the production of breeding bees. I admit honestly, it is frightening to approach beehives with a relentless swarm. But since I decided to go for honey, I can't go back now. So we are near the bees. Are these their houses? Yes, corpus hives of the last sample, now with only one floor. Will there be two? Yes, by the end of the summer. What are we going to do here now? We make a checkup. How many egg cells? How many bees in the hive? Whether they have food? How many bees live in a cluster? Around 6,000, 7,000. Oh, a family of 7,000 bees? Let's get started. Open up. The main thing is to avoid bites. Let's go. And what's that? This is to regulate the temperature in the hive. Do you clean it in summer? No, it regulates both the warm air and the cool. Wow, how many of them are here? This stick is antimicrobial. I got it. There are 6 parts here. Somewhere their queen lives here. She's only one. I will try to find. Today is not sunny. Maybe it won't come out. All I understand is that this multi-thousand family has only one queen. Here she pulls eggs, from which a new bee appears after 28 days. With the increase in their number, the number of sections increases. This process will last until the end of spring. Only then it will be possible to get the first harvest of honey. Admit it, each of us has our own phobias. Here I am, afraid of bees. But now, here in Kyrgyz land, I will overcome my fear. I will try to pull out the section and swarm the bees. I'll do it myself. Can I? Yes, yes. Just look at this. Oh, we will be sure that I overcame my phobia. I don't know. Maybe because I am a descendant of great nomads, but it seems to me that it's easier to breed a horse or a sheep instead of many thousands of army of these creatures. But locals like this craft. They're not afraid of bites, but some people treat various diseases with bees' bite. I personally do not quite accept this method. After all, it is known that after the bee stings, it dies. So for one honey earner will be less. Therefore, it seems to me it is not right to take the lives of these beautiful creatures. I wondered why we need breeding bees, the queens of which turn out to be delivered here from Ukraine. According to the beekeepers, the Carpathian breed of bees is much better able to extract honey in such high mountainous places. With them, honey production increases by 70%. I think beekeeping occupation requires a lot of patience. That is why I want to wish these people large volumes of honey harvest. In these half hours, I tried to tell about the most interesting thing I've learned today after a rather big journey to the south of Kyrgyzstan. We look forward to a fascinating journey beyond the Alai range to the foot of the great Pamir Mountains.